Age.
Tanaka, Mr Speaker, thank you. Debate on the Crown Pastoral Land Rent for Pastoral Leases Amendment Bill has been wide-ranging and it's gone uphill and down dale, much like the lands that it will set the rentals for. Nothing that we have heard in this debate has convinced the Green Party to change its position of opposing the bill. It's a bad bill which favours pastoral leases at the expense of the Crown and the public. Some government members persist in characterising Green and Labour opposition to the bill as an attack on high country farmers. It is nothing of the sort. It is a debate based on principle, on how rentals should be set for the remaining 200 plus pastoral leases covering 1.61 million hectares of the South Island high country, and how the Crown should manage and treat its interest in these dramatic and distinctive lands. It's a debate on whether we should set rentals in a way which is fair to both lessees and the Crown, or in a way that this bill does, which benefits the leaseholders at the Crown's expense. Because the bill charges lessees a rental for their rights to exclusive pasturage, but not for their rights to exclusive occupation, which they also enjoy. This means that the Crown is giving away a significant share of its interest and depriving taxpayers of a return on the true value of the Crown's pastoral lease assets. The Green Party opposes the bill because it represents a failure by the Crown and by Land Information New Zealand to protect the public interest in pastoral leases. The Land Act 1948, as Mr Parker has mentioned, has provided for pastoral leases to have rentals based on 2% of the unimproved value, provided you pay on time. That has been in place for many decades and it is a very cheap rental. But providing for discounted rents which take no regard for location values, quite unlike the rents for most property values in New Zealand, the bill will decrease the value of the Crown's interest and increase the capital value of the leaseholder's interest. And that division of value in the pastoral lease between the lessee and the Crown changes in favour of the lessee. And that will further worsen the poor outcomes from tenure review. It will lead to the Crown virtually giving away its interests in Crown pastoral leases during the negotiations because of the bargain basement price per hectare put on the value of the Crown's share. Research by Lincoln University's Dr Anne Brower analyses the returns to pastoral lessees and to the Crown from tenure review settlements between 1992 and 2012. And that research highlights the inability of LINZ to advocate and represent the interests of the Crown. Dr Brower's work is rigorous, though it's unpopular with national members because they don't want the facts. It shows that since 2007, lessees on average have received more than double the per hectare payment from the Crown for land which is retired from grazing and restored to full Crown ownership as conservation land than they received prior to 2007. In tenure review settlements prior to 2007, the Crown paid lessees an average of $159 per hectare to relinquish pastoral leased land. Post-2007, the average jumped to $343 a hectare. Yet, on the other hand, lessees paid the Crown an average of only $67 per hectare to freehold prior to 2007 and an average of $65 per hectare after 2007. National members are interjecting because they don't like the results of this research. It's been an objective analysis gone through the returns. Dr Anne Brower's analysis showed that the Crown paid run holders around $22.6 million more to buy the option to graze unforgiving high country land, and often land that's deemed unsuitable for farming use, than run holders paid the Crown for the option to subdivide and develop pastoral leased land. Dr Brower's research also shows that between 1992 and 2008, 46% of the land the Crown sold for $6.9 million has since been on-sold for $135 million. So pastoral leaseholders have been able to sell land between 2 and 27,000 times the price at which they purchased the freehold. Land Information New Zealand, representing the Crown, has totally failed to take account of the location and amenity values which are part of the Crown interest. LINZ has failed to take account of the option to on-sell when it's been negotiating those tenure review outcomes. Lessees have enjoyed windfall gains as a result. As Dr Brown notes, the fact that the Crown has consistently undervalued the development options in tenure review suggests that the Crown is, quote, pathologically unwilling or politically unable to exercise its power on its side of the table, end quote, in tenure review. And just on one example, on Robra Downs near Twizel, the former lessee was able to privatise 4,648 hectares for $55,000. Subsequently, 127 hectares of that land was on-sold in one parcel for $1.9 million. On Pukaki Downs, the lessee was able to privatise 3,722 hectares for $191,000 and then on-sell 582 hectares of that for $4.665 million. So national members call this the politics of envy. It's more the politics of stupidity when we have a $13 billion debt not to get the full benefits of these assets when they're privatised. The Green Party's opposition is also based on the uncertainty in this bill of whether the Valuer-General's determination of carrying capacity for the purpose of setting a rental will include a thorough ecological assessment of the pastoral lease. Such an assessment should calculate how many stock can graze the land without harming the vegetation cover, such as tussock or native shrublands. It doesn't. The language in Part 1A, Clause 23A2B, Roman 2, and its references to using, quote, scientific information, end quote, and, quote, information about the land, end quote, is vague and woolly. The Minister in the chair chose not to take a call during the committee stages to explain whether there was any intention that ecological assessments would be done to help determine carrying capacity. That is really disappointing because it suggests that the government is not interested in determining whether high country lands can be better managed to maintain healthy tussock cover, to reduce soil erosion, to control the spread and dominance of hyraceum, to protect wetlands as natural sponges, to safeguard water quality, and to protect the landscapes on which so much tourism marketing depends. So it would be helpful if the Minister did clarify that. The landforms we see on many pastoral leases, particularly around the southern lakes and elsewhere, show their glacial past. They're smoothed hills, they've got a jumble of moraine boulders, and they've got extensive outwash plains. Those landscapes have been millennia in the making. Privatisation through tenure review inevitably leads to more intensive development, whether it's through subdivision for second homes or for new vineyards with their tightly clustered rows of vines. The patterns, the colours, the texture of the landscape changes and it's domesticated. The indigenous vegetation disappears. This bill will exacerbate that. It will provide windfall profits to lessees, it will provide for unfair rentals and poor ecological outcomes. That's why the Green Party opposes it.
I call Colin King.
Speaker, it's a pleasure to